Okay, let's get rolling. Who has not taken a class with me before? Fresh blood. I know, right? You like that? Thank you, Hector. Yeah. Hector, bring out your MC Gamer pants. That's good. Okay, so you guys have to know something. Whenever I teach a class, the first question you're probably asking is, Dustin, where's the handouts? We don't need no stinking handouts. Okay? Because the other thing is, we're going to kind of flow through this, and the reason why is when you talk about behavioral assessment and behavioral studies. So just to give you a background, so you know I'm not making stuff up. So I've been teaching this stuff for 20 years. Once upon a time, I had all this CE certified. I used to be big on teaching CE classes and stuff. So if you don't know this, here's why I'm really, really good at behavioral study. Okay, I am actually not a highly social person, if you hadn't noticed. Okay? I am not overly extroverted. And I do not pick up on social cues, if you guys hadn't noticed. Okay? So there's a lot. Now, part of it is because I'm just a male. Okay? There are certain receptors and antennas I just don't come equipped with, like some of you ladies do. Okay? So there's some of it is that. And just in sales in general, understanding behavioral types, it's like doing math with people, if this makes sense. Okay? So a human, I'm going to speak in math and just to show you just exactly how nerdy I really am. Okay? A human being is comprised of about 3 million variables. That's why none of us are all the same. Okay? And the challenge is, every single person, you have no idea where they're coming from. But here's what's really, really sucky. Your brain automatically wants to label people within 3 seconds. So your brain is trying to essentially do human math lightning fast. And so the conflict comes in is, people do things that you don't understand, yes? All the time. Isn't it amazing that we are consistently amazed by people? You ever thought about that just let that sink in for just a minute. Why are we so shocked by people's behavior?
Because they're not like us.
Because they're not like us.
They're responding like we are.
Correct, or how we think we should, but here's what's even ironic. Sometimes we would have responded the same way. Not every single time, right? So the whole thing, the human variable is a constant moving thing that you can't actually calculate in math. And for a math person, people are really, really difficult to understand. Okay? Like, if you don't fit in a box, and if things don't go in a box, I don't know what to do with you. And so I struggle a lot with that. So in sales, in particular, when you understand that you have to relate and get along with other people, you have to see them as a math equation, and then what we're out after is, I'm increasing my communication ability with every person by 50 to 60% than what I am naturally. So understanding how to read behavioral types increases your ability to communicate. You will never achieve 100%. That's mathematically impossible. Okay? And I'll get into why in a minute. But the reason why is because there's just too many human variables, because the other variable is, even when someone has a behavioral type, you have circumstances that they're going through at any given moment that their response to things is just going to be different. Okay? So that's why one of the things that you'll also know, and those of you that have taken this class with me before, I don't care what your behavioral assessment says you are. It doesn't matter. Okay? I also don't believe what you think you are, either. All right? None of it matters. And the reason why is because it's at the moment, and we have to shift and move with the person that we're engaging with, because there's always multiple variables happening that are not consistent. Because human beings are not consistent. Okay? So, by the way, this will also take you off the hook a little bit. How many of you feel like, gosh, you know what? What I'm really working on right now is discipline and consistency in my life. It's okay, thank you. right? A lot of us say this. I'm just going to help you with something right now. Stop. It doesn't exist. Okay? And if it does exist, what you sacrifice to become disciplined and consistent, you're sacrificing other strengths that you carry by attempting to become that. And then in the process, it also is connected to your behavioral. That's why you feel like you have to be consistent necessarily. That's actually just, it's a myth. Okay? And we're going to get into some of this kind of stuff. I'll break down some of the behavioral types and show you some of the reasons why. Okay? But what I want you to see and I want you to hear is, one, I need you to, number one, embrace just who you are first as we go through this, because your first inclination is, who am I in this conversation? And then the second part of the conversation is, the person you care about the most is who you're going to start thinking about immediately right after. Okay? And what I want it to be is, I want you to be able to interact and relate with people at a higher level. But here's the thing, if you want to, this is what you have to make a decision. If you want to basically understand behavioral types, here's what you have to be willing to do. Quit worrying about you. You have to quit worrying about how you feel. Okay? So you can be, there's a, Kevin Candace, I like what he said it better. He said, you can be right or you can be rich. And when I say rich, I don't mean money. Okay? Because at the end of our lives, you're going to care about two things and two things only: your relationship with God and the people you love. That's it. That's all that matters. Everything else is smoke and vapor. Okay? Your relationship with God and the people that you love. So the question is, do you want to be in relationship? Because if you are in relationship, you are rich. If you are not in relationship, you are broke. Emotionally, you're broke. Make sense? So when I say rich, I want you to know I'm not talking about money. Money's a byproduct of actual richness. Okay? Because when you're in relationship, relationships actually produce a wealth of many things. They produce connections, they produce referrals, they produce all kinds of things. Right? So that's true wealth. True wealth is people. And relationships with people is true wealth. Because they create everything else that you need in your life. But the people that choose themselves and worry about themselves sacrifice those relationships. And they sacrifice those relationships, they could even have a lot of money, but they're broke. And y'all are at least thinking of one or two people right now, as I say. Does this make sense? So the question is what is ultimate wealth? Relationships and the income and the things and all that is the byproduct, that all they are is just arrows that point to the true wealth. Okay? So there's two, so that's what I'm saying is I'm giving you this setup for two reasons. Number one, let go of what you think you know. So don't worry about necessarily your personal behavioral type, because that's not what we need, that's not what we're here to learn more about today. We'll learn more how to connect with people that are not like us. That's what we're actually after. If you learn how to connect with people that are not like you, then you get into greater relationship, well, that turns into referrals and more business and all the things that we need to do to produce for our real estate business. Does this make sense? So we have to go to the very epicenter of where it all comes from. And that is, do I understand people well enough? Okay? So this is the thing. Some of you have a lot of natural instincts. So all my high eyes, if you already know you're high eye, let me see your hands. Okay? You guys have built-in high social receptors. So you can pick up on how people are feeling even. Like someone who's like, you can ask someone and then you go, how you doing? And they go, I'm good. And you're like, hey, seriously, what's going on? Okay? Like that one right there, she can do that all the time. At least she does it to me all the time. Kathy Hamilton does. Right? Like she just knows. I don't know how you know, you just know.
Just keep me in, buddy.
Or I'll be talking to someone and she'll be like, hey, they're not doing too hot. I'm like, how do you know? They didn't say anything. They were smiling. You know? I don't have that thing. Now I have a little something else. That's a whole other conversation. Okay? So I have a cheat sheet, but that comes from a different place. That's not behavioral science, okay? But what I will tell you is this. When you don't have that, so be careful how much you use that, because sometimes you can get it wrong. So all my high eyes, also be careful, because sometimes you can also misread, because again, humans, it's not an exact science. Okay, so be cautious. And the other thing is, don't worry about how you feel and how you need to communicate with. Okay, because one of these things when you're trying to understand behavioral science, understand other people, one of the things that people will always say to me is like, but Dustin, that's just not how I do things. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be in a relationship? You want to be right or rich? If you want to be rich, don't worry about how you feel. Don't worry about how it makes you feel. Worry about how it makes them feel. If they feel great, how will you feel? You're going to feel great. So don't worry about how you feel up front. If they feel great, you're going to end up feeling great. Capiche? All right. Okay, so a few things first. Can anybody tell me which philosopher said this? Know thyself. I'm not going to say it in Latin because I'm not that cool. Somebody said it?
Socrates.
Yeah, Socrates, right? It's always, I thought it was for years. Plus, I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I assumed it was Socrates.
That's why I learned it.
90s kid. Coming back at you.
Yes.
So, know thyself. So, bottom line, what that simply just means is this. In behavioral science, there are 3 versions. Oh, hang on. I did not draw correctly. 3 versions of yourself. There is, let's see, goes this, yeah. What people see, what I see, and when no one's looking. So what people see, what I see, meaning what I tell myself, and who I actually am when no one's looking. Okay? So what happens in these 3 versions, sometimes I don't know why I write, y'all. I don't even know why I draw stuff, because like y'all can even see that. Definitely if we're recording this, no one on the video can see this. This says, what people see, what I see or tell myself, and what I am when no one is looking. So the key issue is insecurity or fear. What insecurity and fear does is it makes these 3 circles get further away from each other. And the less insecurity and fear I have, the closer those circles come together. So the overlap, so like if I'm insecure, it's like this. They're not even connected. If I'm not secure and I'm feeling really, really good, really strong, really positive, it's almost like this. Does this make sense? Like if you ever, I always like to pick on Manny, don't get mad at me, because Manny's not like this. But if a guy's 5'4", what kind of car does he drive?
Big truck.
Big truck. Tell me about the truck, not Manny. Manny doesn't. Okay?
Big wheels.
Yeah.
Super jacked loud.
Yeah, so have you thought about why is it not just a truck with factory wheels? It's never a truck with factory wheels. What is it? It's got a 4-inch lift, not a 2-inch lift. It's got a 4-inch lift with knobs.
They need a ladder to get in.
Yeah, and by the way, yes, they do. It's hilarious to watch them get in it, okay? Is it loud too, by the way? Is the truck always loud?
Yeah.
Glass packs on the exhaust system, the biggest engine they can get their hands on, it's a diesel, right? And they don't ever tow anything, okay? So the whole idea is this, we all compensate for when we feel weak or insecure in an area or something like that. What insecurity truly is overcompensation. They go over the top, the opposite direction of what they're afraid of. Okay? That's why insecurity and fear are matched. Insecurity is the overcompensation of the fear that I'm protecting. So, if I'm 5'4" and I drive a jacked up truck, what do I want you to believe I am? I'm big. How do I walk if I'm a 5'4" male and I drive a jacked up truck? My arms don't touch my sides for some reason. I don't know why. I can't touch my sides. Okay? All right? So I have that issue, and then I want to make everyone feel that I'm big, so I walk big. I even wear a little lift in my shoe. Okay? Manny's got no lifts. No lifts, okay? I wear a little lift in my shoe, right? I walk around like I'm big, because what's my fear? How do I really feel? I feel small. Okay? So here's the thing. Again, do I want to be right or do I want to be rich? If I want to be rich, what do? Dude, that is one hell of a truck, man. You could probably drive over my car with that thing. That's like a monster truck. Seriously. Dude, what do you bench? 225. I'm going with it. You know why I'm going with it? Even though I'm kind of like, aw, buddy, my 14-year-old kid's bigger than you, right? Okay? But I'm going with it. Why am I going with it? Right. Guess how he's going to feel about me now? He's going to tell 5 people, hey, that dude, he's all right. I like that guy, Dustin. He's a good guy. But I have a choice in that moment. I can be like, nice truck. You have a Tonka printed on the back of it? That's a little toy there you got there, buddy. Isn't it cute? Yeah. Or do that, you'll get written off by a little guy super fast if you call him little. Oh, look at you. Look at you, you're getting all mad. How cute that is. That's adorable. Right? But see, in that moment, I know it's funny, but in that moment, what happens with that relationship? Oh, we're done. We are done in that moment. Okay? Not only are we done, it might even upset him if I catch him at the wrong time. He might make it his mission to actually try to hurt me. Talk crap about me, write me nasty Google reviews, Zillow reviews, whatever, right? And it can happen that fast. That's how unpredictable humans are. Okay? So I use this analogy because it's just a super easy one to see. But here's what I want you to know. All of us have insecurities. And the reason we all have insecurities is because we all have fear. Okay? So the question is, we all have fear. Why do we have fear and where did it come from? All right? So there's a book. It's Kevin Leman, New Birth Order. If you want to read it, highly recommend it. Okay? So in New Birth Order, basically what Kevin Leman talks about is, based on the birth order that you were born in, is what dictates a lot of your behavioral type. So all my oldest children, let me see it. Okay, all right, all my middle kids.
Bossy, bossy.
All right, okay, all my babies. All right, and only children. Yeah, okay, now. Yeah, I know, right? By the way, what you didn't see is how Colleen raised her hand. She went. The rest of you shot your hand up, just like, hello, you're welcome, I'm here. Typical only child. So here's what I want you to know. What Kevin Leman says, not only is that your birth order, but if there's a 5-year gap or more between you and your next sibling, the birth order starts over.
If there's how much?
5 years. Okay? So I'll give you an example. I am the youngest of 4, but my closest sibling is 7.5 years older than me. So actually my behavior is like Colleen's. I'm really an only child. My oldest brother is 13 years older than me. When I turned 5 years old and I had long-term memory, he moved out of the house to go to college. My sister is almost like my second mother, because she's 10 years older than me. So do you see what I mean? So I don't show up where my other brother, who's you'd think he'd be a middle child, he actually acts like the baby of the family. And I act like the other adult. Because guess what? I grew up around adults. I didn't grow up with other kids. That's why only children are always adults, so are oldest. Oldest children are adults, and you're forced into adulthood early because your parents don't know what they're doing when they had you. Everything was practiced on you. All the oldest children, everything was practiced on you. Okay? Middle children, you got more of a pass because the oldest kids had to deal with all the crap. The parents were screwed up and they were like, oh, so this is how this works. Oh, this is how we register our kids for school. Oh, right, this is how we make sure they eat lunch every day. They didn't know that with the oldest children, but by the middle kid comes around, they're like, okay, this is how this works now. You guys are good. Okay? So that's why what happens when before we start talking about DISC and behavioral and anything like that, you go, okay, so where does that come from? Where it all comes from is a core fear. All of our behavioral traits that turn into a DISC, a DISC kind of thing, which we're going to talk about, it comes from a core fear. Well, so what do we do when we have a core fear? What do? We manufacture insecurity, which is an overcompensation. Are y'all tracking with me here? Okay. By the way, I'm giving you this should take a lot longer than what I'm going to take today. Okay. And hey, by the way, too, just also give you a couple disclaimers. If I say some stuff and it gets you emotional, it's good. It's healthy. Because the biggest issue where fear will always get you, if you never name your fear, it will sabotage you your entire life. I'm going to say it again. If you don't name your fear and give it a name, it will sabotage you your entire life. Okay? Fear has no power over you when you call it what it is. But if you act like it's not there or it's not real, it will attack you. It'll rear its head and it'll sabotage things for you. And you won't see it coming. You'll be blindsided. And you'll think it's 15 other things. And it was simply something that you're just afraid of. Okay? So it's super critical that we have this conversation around fear. That's why I spend more time talking about fear than actual behavioral traits. Because that is the pinpoint that manufactures everything else. Okay? So, all my oldest children. Oldest children.
I am the oldest child.
You're the oldest child?
Yeah. It's me.
See, then you got variables like Debbie that just don't make sense.
You don't see me around my family.
True. Fair enough. See? Human variables. Right?
I'm the oldest, and my brother's 3 years, and then 8 years, and 10 years. So
Okay, so basically the birth order starts over. So
With
it's
my
you,
other brother.
You and your brother, and then the other two, and we'll start it back over again. Which is probably why is that your brother or sister, the one that's 8 years apart?
Is my brother.
Is your other brother. And y'all probably butt heads.
No.
Y'all get along. So you butt heads with your younger one?
No, I butt heads with, the one closest to
With
me.
number two?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore as much, but when we were younger.
When you were younger, you did. Okay. Well, yeah, because 8
But
years
he's
apart.
the coolest.
But I mean right now.
Oh, no, now we all get along pretty much.
Awesome. Okay. So what you'll see is a lot of times when that starts back over, in that dynamic, you have two oldest children. Well, two oldest children, guess what they feel like they have to be? Competing adults for the family. So sometimes they can be allies. So like me and my oldest brother, we're the oldest. So sometimes we see the world the same way in many ways, but we also will butt heads more too. Okay? So you'll see these things start to come to place. Where fear comes from, and I'm gonna pick on me for right now to make y'all feel comfortable. Okay? So where my core fear comes from has to do with performance. Okay? So my dominant behavioral style is that of a D. You guys didn't know that one already. Okay? The reason why my dominant behavioral style is because a core fear is established. Kevin Lehman says it happens somewhere between ages 7 to 11. Somewhere in that range, and I have to agree with him. Because if you think about it, like imagine you're 8 years old. What does your world look like when you're 8? It's very simple. Very, very simple world. So the span and scope of your world is very simple. Have you ever heard of the phrase inner vows? Okay? Anybody divorced in here? I'm not going to pick on you. But divorced people. When you get divorced, what do you do the moment you either sign the paper or you file the paperwork? What do? You make an inner vow. And what's your inner vow sound like?
Never again.
And ladies, you go, I will never be with a man who, ... And then you go on a date for the first time after some time, and you go on a date, and the guy does one thing. Just one thing. And what happens? Oh, we're done. I'm done with that. He did not touch the door. He didn't open the door. He let me walk. He let me open my own door. That's just like my ex, and I will never be with a person like that again. Off one simple thing. Are y'all following me? That's how, when you think about it. So for my divorced people, y'all can speak to this. You know how powerful an inner vow is. Because you cut off things like that. Now, you also were traumatized, so there's good reasons. It's self-protective, okay? But I'm just using it as an example of how powerful an inner vow is. Imagine how much more powerful your inner vows are when you're 7 or 8 years old. So let's say you have a moment or an interaction, okay? So I'll give you an example. Y'all bear with me. All right, we'll see if I can get through it. Sorry, I've just been a wreck lately. I'll just, okay.
Vulnerability.
Look, I have
Being
emotions.
vulnerable.
Yeah, I have emotions.
That's okay.
Yeah, look, I'm not a robot after all.
Oh,
Okay, so somewhere in that age, okay, it was either 8 or 9 years old, I was playing football, and I realized that I had a really good season. My dad came to my games. And so I realized in that moment that the only way I got my dad to love me is if I performed at a very high level in athletics. So guess what I made a vow to? Everything I perform at, I have to be the best. Because if I'm the best, he'll show up. That's how powerful an inner vow is when you're 8 years old. It sounds silly, right? As adults, you're like, what? Come on. So it shapes your entire behavior of who you are. Yeah. Even down to this day. I had my whole family out. We're at the lake house. I got everybody there. Everybody's having a great time. And I was upset. And Deborah's like, why are you upset? You've been working so hard to even create this moment right here, right now. Because it wasn't perfect. I could have done better. I didn't do enough.
In your head.
Yeah. Everybody else had a great time. But I hadn't finished the house. I had rock still out in the front because my landscaping guy hadn't finished. I had 2 sprinkler heads broke, so it made this big puddle mess. So I'm going and buying dirt and filling it up, and AC wasn't cooling down quite enough because I need more insulation in the ceiling. I didn't realize it because I got a new AC unit, right? Now, on the flip side, some of the benefits of me being me is I'm driven constantly. So it produces some things. But you know how bad sometimes it sucks being me? I'm never happy, ever. I'm never content. Nothing's ever good enough. You know where it comes from? That. Are y'all with me on this here? This is how powerful your fear is. So my insecurity, my overcompensation, and this is the one I put out there to all y'all, I got my shit together all the time. I got it all figured out. I want you guys to believe that so bad. Okay? I want y'all to believe this so bad. But see, here's what's funny about this one, just so you know, what we want people to see. You are the only person that actually thinks everyone believes it. Did y'all know better? Especially if y'all spend 30 minutes with me, y'all figure out real quick I don't have my shit together. Okay? Ashley really knows now. She has to spend every day with me now. Okay? I am the epitome and definition of hot mess. Okay? So here's the whole thing, is this is what people see, and then what I see myself is what I tell myself. See, I tell myself a story of who I am, so you guys will hopefully believe it. But when no one else is looking, nobody else is around, and I'm all by myself, that's when everything's different. And it is super hard to get honest with this person. Super, 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 super hard. Because you work so hard on these. Okay? And then when these circles are intersecting, but see, when these inner circles are not intersecting, that's why, like, if you talk to someone who's crazy insecure about everything, they can't even see it. Like, even when you have a conversation, like, hey, there's really no need for you to do this. Like, it's okay, we see you're struggling with something. What's their response? No, I'm not.
I'm good.
I don't know what you're talking about. Something's obviously wrong with you. Because the circles are that far apart from each other. They're not intersecting, so they can't speak to each other. You guys with me? Okay? All right. So, nonetheless, Ashley, you gonna say something? You had that look on your face.
I was just gonna laugh because you and your wife have matching names, Hotness and Hot Mess.
That's true. That's good. Maybe that's why I call her the hot mess. So the whole thing is, this core fear, where did it come from? So I want you to think about that for just a moment, okay? Whether it's no, it's just in your mind. 7 to 11, right, in those age brackets, what were those moments for you? Does anything come to mind? I'm not gonna ask you out loud, don't worry, okay? But I want you to just be thinking about that, because I'm gonna dig in on the 4 core fears of the behavioral styles for the D, the I, the S, and the C, okay? And what I want you to look for is, I'll write these out. As I write them out, I want you to go, okay, which one is my top one? Because the issue is we're gonna have issues with all of them. So let me set this up. When I say a core fear, here's how you know your core fear. If it happened, okay, so for example, I'll write the D down. For the D, it's being taken advantage of, okay? Getting screwed over, right? People get the best of you, that kind of thing. Your core fear is something that will wake you up in the middle of the night, okay? So like, you might get cheated out of $1,000. And you'll be like, man, dang it. Like if you're not a D behavioral, you're gonna be mad about it. You don't like it, you're afraid that it's gonna happen. You don't wanna walk into it blindly, of course. The difference is, I will wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I will plot revenge on someone for the next 3 weeks. And I'll do it. Okay? So that's what I'm saying, that's the difference. What's your core fear that will wake you up in the middle of the night and you can't turn off the conversation in your head? Okay? That's what I want you to think about core fear. All right, so we take the D. The D's core fear is being taken advantage of. Okay? The I's core fear is loss of approval, and I like to say it this way for all you I's out there, is being misunderstood. Because what every I tells me is, Dustin, I don't really care if people like me or not. And I go, yes, because you've already decided that you didn't like them. And if you decided you didn't like them, then yeah, of course, nobody cares. But how about someone that maybe you liked or you did get to know that you thought was a good person, and they decided they didn't like you because they misunderstood what you meant or what you had to say or how you showed up or what you did. Like, for example, if a client fires you, all my I's, y'all are gonna be sick for weeks over it. Okay? If you're a D, you're like, jerk, whatever. Stupid. And you move on to the next. Okay? So here's the thing, this is where, like, so for me, I'm a combination of both, and we'll get into this, but the whole thing is, which one do I lose sleep over? I lose sleep over this one. I don't lose sleep over this one. And that's because this is my learned behavior trait, not my natural. This is my natural, this is my learned behavior. And by the way, I will say, because of Kevin Lehman's book, it's not even technically natural. It's something happened that produced a fear that created the traits to protect the fear. Okay? All right. S's, so I know I got some of you in the room. Okay? Loss of security. Okay? Now, security in our society, we interpret very quickly as financial security. And yes, that is definitely part of security. Okay? But security for the behavioral conversation is more about secure in who I am and who I believe that I am. Okay? You challenge or disrupt, that's why I have a little caveat with the S's. Here's how you know an S. Use this word with them. You were wrong. I can pick on Sheila. Sheila's an S, but Sheila's actually the interesting experiment with an S, is what happens when an S finally finds security. They actually show up like a D, and Sheila's a perfect example of that. And, but back when Sheila was more S-y, okay?
Make it sound like you messed
Okay.
up.
Sheila, if you made a comment about something real estate related, ooh, better yet, if I said something graphic design, and I was like, hey, that's the wrong font type that you just used on that. She would give me, I mean, again, because S's are not confrontational people. They're actually quiet, more passive aggressive. But essentially, she would be plotting my death over the next 3 weeks, especially if I said it in a group of people. Okay? So what I'm saying is, how you can know if you're an S is very quickly, if I tell me something that you're doing that you know that you did right. Like, let's show me a contract that you just wrote and give me something, and I'm just going to tell you, hey, paragraph 6 is wrong. And how you respond to that word tells me whether you're an S or not. Because eyes are like, oh, really? What did I mess up? Because eyes can care less about being wrong. Okay? A D, I'll argue with you. I'm not wrong. Prove it. But if you prove it, I'll be like, I was wrong. Okay? But an S, they won't back down. Okay? This is my daughter, right there. She will fight me tooth and nail. Sophie, that was wrong. You messed up. No, I didn't, Dad. It was somebody else. It was everybody else's fault. And I mean, she bobs and weeds and comes with 15 reasons why it was not her at all. I'm like, why is this so hard? So I make her say, Dad, I was wrong. And I was like, we're done. You don't even have to be grounded. I'm like, you're grounded until you say I was wrong. I'm like, I will not let you have this. Okay. All right. And then C's, their fear is criticism. Their core fear is being criticized, which I realize sounds an awful lot like being wrong as well. It's different. It's being criticized is actually the issue. Because all criticism, which by the way, for all C behavioral types, there is no such thing as constructive criticism. It's like saying someone's pretty ugly. You put the word pretty in front of it, actually makes it uglier. Okay? Constructive criticism just means worse backhanded criticism. Because it's not even blunt. It's almost too nice that you don't even know what the heck they're saying. It's worse. Like, just say it. Okay? So if my fear is criticism, what do you think about these? First of all, which one will you lose sleep over at night? And if I give you scenarios, you purchased something and you got grifted for $1,000. You were at a dinner party, you left, and through another friend, someone left that party and was like, girl's stupid. Or that guy's dumb. I don't understand who he thinks he is. Okay? S, loss of security, meaning I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month, and so I did something that I thought was really well done, and they told me that I did it wrong, that I made a mistake. Or this, that the information that I just said at a party, at a dinner party, told me that all my facts were backwards, and I was incorrect. Which one wakes you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you lose sleep over? Having conversations with yourself in your head over. Okay? That is your dominant behavior trait. So you understand why I hate taking the tests? Tests mean nothing. Because at any given moment I can be, like if I'm buying a car, I look like a C. I'll use a spreadsheet when I go buy a car. I won't use a spreadsheet for anything else, but I will when I buy a car because I'm so scared of getting screwed over, because I've been screwed over buying cars before, that I slow way down when I have to go buy a car. And there's a lot of information to analyze. It's the only time you'll ever see me use a spreadsheet. But if I answer the question, do you ever use spreadsheets to calculate your thoughts and make decisions? I would say yes, and check yes on a test, but it's only one specific instance. In the rest of my life, I don't ever want to ever see a spreadsheet ever in my life. Don't need them. I need smart people who look at them to go, should I do this or should I not do this, and what does your spreadsheet say? Give me 2 options and I'll pick one. Make sense? This is why we don't trust tests. The question is, how do you know someone's core fear? Okay? All right, so based off of this, what you thought you were, did anybody feel like, I think maybe my core fear might be different? Therefore, my dominant behavior might be different. Anybody? Okay. All right. So let's, well, here, I'm not going to bother writing down traits. Here's what I want you to basically get the gist of. If I'm a D and my core fear is people trying to screw me over, what's my overcompensation? How do I show up? Yeah, well,
On the defense, aggressive.
yeah, there we go. Yes, say, yes, defensive, but how would I show up in defense? Dominating. I'm actually going to show up very offensive, because offense is great defense. So I'm going to be domineering, I'll be abrupt, I'm going to be very bottom line, very to the point.
Rip off the Band-Aid.
You bet. Because see, anything that feels like it's wasting time feels like I'm being taken advantage of. It feels like you're not being upfront with me. So if I can cut you off and just get you to go to the point, you can't take advantage of me. Like buying a car.
Don't waste my time, get to the bottom line. What
Yeah.
is the part of it, give me the facts.
You bet. Like if I have to show up at a car dealership, that's why I only buy my cars at Sewell. If I'm going to go to a dealership. Otherwise I buy cash from an individual. But if I go to a dealership, I go up because I call ahead and I go, this is what my payment has to be, this is how much money I need, and I need it to be this. Can you do it?
And
If the
I'm not
answer is
coming
yes.
in until I can sign the papers.
Yeah, exactly.
You bet.
I'm not gonna sit in line.
And they're like, oh, let's come drive. I don't need to drive the car. I don't need to. Does it fit in these boxes or not? And if the answer is, and that's why they're always good. They're like, well, this particular one doesn't, but if those are your criteria, let me know. I'll call you when I find something. And then they call me, and then I go buy it. I don't have to think about it. Okay? I don't need to drive it. It's a car. Right? Like, I know what I want it to have. Does this make sense? So the whole thing is, I don't want to be taken advantage of, so that's how I just approach things. So that's why it changes the way your behavior. So your behavior shows up in this way. Okay? If I'm an I, and my fear is people not approving of me or misunderstanding me, what's my overcompensation? How am I going to show up?
You ask everybody else's opinion, and make sure that you do what one of them says that you really like.
You bet.
Like, oh, do you want a white on white car? Oh, okay. Do you think I should get that? Do you think I should?
That's it.
Okay, done. I'll do it.
Well, and if I need people to like me and understand me, I have to be very extroverted, right? I have to go out of my way to connect with people. I'm going to make you love me.
That doesn't work.
Not never.
Yeah,
That doesn't work.
it doesn't work. Not everybody, right? But
I'm gonna change yourself.
the behavioral comes out this way. Okay? By the way, I's are some of the most thoughtful people ever. Like, that's why, like, I's, y'all do Buffini so well, because writing note cards, sweet note cards just out of nowhere and sending them people randomly, that's your jam anyways. Y'all are all about that anyways. Okay? So that's where you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. You know, I was just thinking of you. You're so great. That's an I's jam, man. That protects their fear right there. Okay? An S, what's my overcompensation if I'm an S?
Don't rock the boat.
Everything is even keel. Everything is measured. Everything is on purpose. Okay? And we don't get too crazy. Okay? Too much risk. So very risk averse. Very risk averse. Which, by the way, is super hard being in real estate. Yeah. Hi, I'm an S. I'm risk averse and I'm non-confrontational.
Glad we make the best realtors.
Well, that's the thing. Every S always says this. Once I get the client,
They're
my clients for
All
life.
they have to do is get my car.
and it is 100% true. 100% true. That's why I tell team leads, S's are the best hires for buyer's agents, as long as you're doing lead procurement. If you're providing and converting the leads and you hand them off, given to a high S, you'll never have to worry about them. But getting them to do the lead generation, lead conversion themselves, good luck with that one.
It's a little, we can do it,
It can
but
happen.
it's difficult.
Well,
He doesn't think I am. He thinks I'm an I, but
she's an IS.
You're definitely
So,
I'm
lower
not.
high.
here's the thing. What happens when you, I'll pick on Sheila a little more, because I'm just freaking proud of her, okay?
You're it.
So, Sheila's got the best story, y'all. Anyhow, bottom line is, this whole deal when you're in this S phase, okay? What happens with an S when they finally find, so first off, they have to identify their fear. Give your fear a name, okay? Call it what it is. This is important to you. So here's what's funny, finding security, of the fears to overcome, is the easiest one to actually control, because most of it actually has to do with you. Okay? Like, people not liking you or misunderstanding you, you can't control other people. People trying to take advantage of you, you can't control other people. Losing security is something that is within you, and it is actually within your control. Ironically, now you're gonna have stupid people saying mean things to you, and you gotta deal with that. But knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, and no joke, cash in the bank. You get those three things nailed down, then what an S becomes, they start showing up like a D. And the reason why they start showing up like a D is because now you take their, basically, S's gravitate towards routine and organization. They're task people, they're task-oriented individuals. And so when you remove some of that insecurity and fear from them, they just show up, I mean, y'all, they're what I call GSD people. They just get shit done, okay? They're methodical, on point. That's like, if y'all wanna know, ask Sheila Bond what her schedule looks like every day. She's got her whole calendar mapped out, when she does what, like her time blocking's freaking on point. She teaches class on awesome, okay? So the whole point is, what do you have, what happens when this person finally achieves some of this? They start showing up like this, and like this, and like that.
Because you don't have to worry about it. When my bank account's fat,
Right?
everything's right in the world.
Because this isn't holding you back anymore. And you had to shake loose one person who hurt this a lot, and picked up one who's alleviates this a lot too, right? So you got someone who believes in you, and probably had to work for a little bit to convince you just exactly how awesome you were, and you had to start believing it, and then you start believing that, throw cash in the bank, boom, right? So that's what I'm saying is, you're not stuck by these things, okay? So it just takes some healing. But you start with, you gotta call it what it is. The people who are truly stuck, they live like this. Okay? All right, for my C's. Okay? These are my engineers, pilots. Okay? So how do I show it? If my fear is criticism, how do I show up?
Kind of a jerk.
So do I have to know everything to avoid being criticized? I have to know everything, literally everything.
You're expert at everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you get stuck in that, because you can't know everything.
You
Not only
get
can't know anything, but good luck making a decision.
You get your own way, especially an inspection report with a C. Oh my
It's the worst, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is horrible.
It's the worst. Well, and that's why C's struggle the most with interpersonal skills, right? They don't pick up on social cues, they miss social cues on a regular basis. These are the proper introverts, especially high C's. These truly are the introverts. Like, they tolerate people, they don't actually like them. Okay? And the reason why is because they're math people at a whole other level, and the variables with humans are so difficult to understand and calculate that they're just like, ugh, forget it, I'm not even trying. Okay? So, having a conversation with them, it sounds like a lot of information. They're constantly relaying facts to you.
Yeah.
Random facts, facts you didn't even ask for.
And you think that introvert people don't say anything, they don't talk. No, I'm married to that.
Yeah.
And he talks more than I do
Yeah.
when we're together.
But it's not,
It's not at me, he does know a lot, but still. He talks more than I do because I can't get a word in edgewise.
yeah. Like if I were a high C, I would just randomly be like, do you realize that that wall from wall to wall is actually 37 feet and that wall to that wall is 43 feet? You know, you pick up that, if you'd actually remove and didn't have to have that egress per code standard, we could actually fit an additional 20 people in this room. Out of nowhere. They'll just tell you shit like that ever. Right? If you tell them, hey, nice car. guess what's gonna happen next?
How the car was made.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but it's a 2017 model, not a 2018. In 2017, they actually had a 5.7 V8 liter, and it was supercharged twin turbo. When they moved to actually more hybrid, gas economically friendly engine. And so 2018 on, crap car. 2017, best year they made this car. Actually, married one, that's why she's living.
Yes. Pilot cars, yep.
Yep, pilot, car guy, yeah,
Yep.
all day. So you see what I mean? In these moments, you see where the fear creates the behavioral type. That's the main thing I want you to see. I want you to focus your attention on the core fear. Because what comes next is what helps you or hurts you in relating with these people. Okay? Because here's the whole thing. If you are, because I'll group them together. D's and C's have a similar communication style, and I's and S's have a similar communication style. Okay? And the communication style is business first or friends first. Okay? So even though, and the reason why is because D's and C's are logic-based people first, I's and S's are emotion-based people first. So a D and C wants to analyze facts before anything else, and I's and S's want to analyze feelings before anything else. And it's not that they don't want the other. It's not that D's and C's have no feelings. You go with this. It's just we value facts over the feelings. Okay? And then I's and S's, it matters to you how it feels. So like, take home buyers. If you show a house to a D and a C, what do they care about?
The stupid stuff.
Bedroom, bathrooms, garage size. Can I actually get 2 cars in here? I don't know there's enough room. If I actually have both cars plus storage, how old is that water heater
Can
again?
I bring my truck over and see if it fits?
Oh, and I'm gonna look in the attic,
Yes,
whether they intend to buy it or not.
correct. It's 160 degrees up there, but I'm going up. I want to see what that water heater looks like. Yep, okay? That's what they care about. All right? What do I's and S's want to care about? You have an I or an S, you show up to a property, what do they want to do?
Where am I gonna put the Christmas tree?
Yeah,
How
well,
to replace their furniture.
They actually feel the house, like,
Yeah.
does it feel, does it have an energy that's me?
oh, yes.
Or does it have like this heavy feeling that like
Yeah.
something bad happened here?
Yeah, this is my wife all day long. Like the house we live in, it was butt ugly. It was so gross, everything was faux finished everywhere. And it was like orange, glaze, everything. It was disgusting. Had fake columns, like, it was so tacky, so tacky. We walk in and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is gross, right? And she's like, I'm like, Deborah, let's go, this is stupid. She's like,
Work with this.
this feels right. I changed that, I changed this, it's okay. It's good. I'm like, what? No, it's ugly. And sure shit, you guys, the house looks amazing now. I mean, you don't have to pay money to make it look like that, but you know, it's nice, it looks great. I could not see it at all, couldn't see it, right? She totally could, and it was all like we left, she woke up in the middle of the night, she was thinking about it, she was planning, she took pictures of it, and then she started, because she's got some graphic design stuff, so she started changing paint colors and photoshopping pictures, and she had it all figured out in no time, right? And me, I'm like, right neighborhood, right square footage, as long as I buy it for the right price, does it have a 3-car garage, and is it on at least half an acre lot? It's got those things, all right, I'm good. It has those things, all right, it checks the box. Okay, right school patterns, went to the right schools where I want my kids to go, like, it checked my boxes, so I'm like, well, crap, I guess we're bucket. Okay? You see what I mean? Logic versus emotion. So logic versus emotion, business first meaning friends first. So we narrow those two things down, and what we need to now focus in on is how do we relate? So here's what's funny, we have the 4, so what you have to do is you have to eliminate the 4, and how do we get into conversation with people very quickly, okay? So this is Dustin's cheat sheet to how I read y'all's personality types, lightning fast, okay? All right? So the first thing is, so business first, and friends first. Okay? Now remember, if you're a business first person, you're going to be logic based. Friends first, you're going to be emotion based. And this is really how we make decisions. Okay? So this is our communication style. So this is communication style. And this is decision making. So in business first, okay, so I'll play along with me. Well, I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Okay. So Lisa, I'm gonna call Lisa on the phone. Okay, ring ring.
Hello.
Hey Lisa, it's Dustin. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Okay, pause.
Everything, what are you wrong now?
No.
This is going, what?
You did good. Okay. Ashley's a D. I'm gonna pick on Ashley. Okay? Ashley, ring ring.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine. What's up? What do you need?
There we go. Okay, I want you to listen very carefully. That exchange matters greatly. It seems very insignificant, but it matters greatly. Okay? I asked Lisa, how are you? What did Lisa answer back? How are you? Okay, there we go. What did Ashley do?
What's up, what do you want?
What's up? What do you need?
What do you want?
Okay, so here's the thing. So here's the thing I want you to understand. All my I's and S's, you felt like Ashley's answer was rude. Yes?
Used to.
Okay? All right. Here's what I want to point out. All my D's and C's, she answered the question. Lisa answered the question. Ashley answered the question. I asked a question. They both answered it. The difference was she had a compunction to ask it back of me. Why would she have that? Because she's friends first and emotion based. I asked Ashley the same question. Ashley doesn't care how I am.
As long as she doesn't hurt, don't give her a person for me. I mean, if I'm a stranger, I'll go direct business, so waste your time what you want.
But this is what matters. This is why this matters than even the last sheet. Okay? Because in business first, Ashley answered that. So either way, communication style patterns tells me which way to go. Just by asking, how are you?
And how to not let your personality style be offended or hurt by their personality style.
100%, because it happens that fast. So, and to Lisa's point, by the way, some of you might go like, well, yeah, I'm more of a high I. If let's say you're at home, you're cleaning, you've got guests coming over in 30 minutes, you haven't dressed yet, and your husband's still sitting on the couch watching TV. And I call you, and I ask you, how are you? How are you going to answer that question?
I'm not time.
What's up? What do you need? Okay? So the whole thing is, a D in particular has a natural sense of urgency, has a natural hurry up all the time. All the rest of us, we have it momentarily, depending on what we're doing. So at any given moment, any of us might normally be friends first, but there might be in a moment when I catch you that you need me to do business first. So let's imagine you've got company coming over to the house, it's a Saturday, husband's doing nothing, and you got 30 minutes and you haven't even showered yet, and I call you on the phone, and I say, how are you? And you say, I'm good, what's up? I'm like, oh, hey, I'm just hanging out. How's your day? What are you doing today? What do you got going on? And I'm trying to connect with you relationally. How are you feeling in that moment? Shut up, Dustin. What do you want? But because you're friends first, you're like, I can't be mean. It goes against my nature. But you're getting more and more frustrated with me. Bottom line, I'm not getting anywhere with you. Does this make sense? So, no matter what, I have to know how to shift between business first and friends first. If you're an I or an S and you've never stopped and thought about this before, you do friends first communication every time. Okay? So for example, normal friends first communication is, hey, how you doing? I'm great. How are you? Great. How was your weekend? It was great. We basically do anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes of social exchange before we're comfortable discussing business. Make sense? So 2 to 3 minutes of social exchange before you feel comfortable. That's the whole thing. Friends first, in order to make decisions, need to feel comfortable with the other person before they can talk about the business. Business first people don't want to do that. Just tell me what you want right now. Okay?
It shows up in text messages too, pretty easily.
Yes. Right. Like, for example, these people don't use emojis. I've been told to use more emojis when I text. I use emojis now when I text, like, smiley face, what do you want?
Or it's like, hey, I'm gonna need you to sign this ASAP, versus the friend one is like, hey, I hope you had a great weekend. By the way, I'm gonna need you to sign
Yeah.
this.
Yes. Or like, Ashley and I together, check email.
Yeah.
You missed this. Got it, thanks. Which I didn't respond, you commented on something from Facebook, so thanks for that.
Yep, you're welcome.
But that's the whole thing is, but other people, it's like, if you don't put that kind of stuff,
I have to redo my text all the time.
yeah.
I'll text and I'll be like, okay, let me do that again. Good morning.
Uh-huh.
But you think that on my high five.
Yeah. Well, see, there's,
You
and here's the,
mirror match.
I do that a lot.
well, and then there's also your learned behavior. That's why I say, first and foremost, stick with your dominant. Know your dominant first. Dominant's the one that's gonna wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay? That's always your dominant. What's the fear that's gonna wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're gonna plot someone's death for the next 3 weeks?
You go to
Okay.
church.
All right? Well, you'll ask for forgiveness when you get to church, right? But you're still gonna plot their death for the next 3
You
weeks.
can't sleep, that's your, I need to be selfish, and say, because I need sleep.
Sure. If I can make that work, Helen, I'm with you, okay? So the whole thing is, we'll be business first, and then basically, now how am I gonna make decisions? So a business first person, so if you're friends first, I'm not kidding. If you said, hey Dustin, how are you? I said, yeah, what's up? Real quick, I have a contract question, I have this, I need to discuss this with you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then whenever the business is done, I'll even ask you, was there anything else? No, I'm good. That's it. Perfect. So what's up? How's your family? That's the main thing I want you to understand. People want to do both. It's just a question of which one comes first. That's all it is. Okay? When there's things to be discussed about. If I have to small talk, I do my best to stay engaged, but I'm really just waiting for you to tell me what you want to talk to me about. Make sense? So if I'm just waiting, how about we just do that, and then I'm actually far more relaxed. Does this help you? Okay? Here's the other thing. Also, if you ask me to make a decision, what's the most important thing do we need to talk about in order for me to make a decision?
Facts, bottom line.
Right. So for example, if I'm looking at buying a house and I'm a little hesitant and gun shy, I'm second guessing myself, which by the way, high S's, just so you know, y'all are big time second guessers. Okay? C's are 5-time guessers. So S's will second guess themselves, and then C's, they'll over research something so much they'll get lost in their research that they won't even have the ability to make a decision anymore. Okay? They get lost in it. So the whole thing is, how do you narrow down between logic versus emotion? So these people, I'm gonna ask them, hey, so how does this make you, how are you feeling right now about this? Everything we just talked about, how do you feel about this? Okay, like when we're recruiting, if we're meeting with a recruit, so based off everything we discussed about Keller Williams, how does this make you feel? How do you feel about Keller Williams? How do you feel about me? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about what we discussed? How do you feel about your business? How do you feel about whatever? I'll ask these people. These people, never ask them how they feel. You're not gonna like the response. Okay? Because if you ask me how I feel, I'm like, there's this thing. Like it really is like how I feel. It's like, how fast is the wind blowing outside today right now? Is it 15 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour? I'm like, oh, does it matter? Wind's blowing, wind's not blowing. It's like that. That's how people who are more logic-based feel about emotions and feelings. It's not that we don't have them, we just don't, like if we're making a decision, it's like, well, that doesn't really matter how I feel about it. Does it make sense or not make sense?
But
Are you with
even the emotion people can not really know how to answer that because they feel several of those emotions at one time.
Mhm.
So you may not actually really get a true answer because they don't want you to not like their answer, because they're feeling all these things, so they don't know what to say. So there's that.
Yeah.
To go with, they might not answer that question.
And then be thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
I hope they're not mad at me.
Yeah. And that's why I remember the first thing that I said, don't worry about you. Because that's where we get this wrong. We misread this stuff all the time because that's what happens, is we might ask, well, how does this make you feel right now? And they're like, I don't really know how to answer that question. And then we go, did I do something wrong? Did I say it the wrong way? Maybe I shouldn't have asked them that question. Crap, maybe they were the logic-based people that Dustin talked about, and they were hurt feelings. Okay? And then you start getting all nervous and worried. Don't worry about that. Stay very, very clear. Pay attention to, that's why I say it's communication style first. Once you know their communication style, now you know how they need to be communicated with at the time. Then from there, when we're in presentation mode, during presentation mode, you know very quickly if you're talking too much facts related or feelings related. But if I can tell your friends first, I'm going light on facts and presentation mode. I'm talking about you, what you want, what you need, and I'm asking a ton of questions. Because the more you talk, the more you get the other person talking, the more they're processing their feelings out loud with you. Most people don't know how to, so Debbie, you're right, most people don't know how to articulate their feelings well. You know how you get people to articulate their feelings? Just get them talking. Okay? If you've noticed, do y'all notice my little qualifying questions to make sure that y'all are still paying attention?
Does this make sense?
Does this make sense? What am I looking for?
Affirmation.
I'm literally I'm looking for head nods. Okay. Yeah, right? Guess what's your highest form of communication? Nonverbal body language.
Aren't we glad we don't have COVID anymore, so we can do that?
Right, yeah. It's kind of hard to get those on Zoom, yeah. Yeah, you're like, did you nod your head? Did your screen freeze? I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So if I'm dealing back and forth, right, I start with communication style. If I identify that you're a business first person right off the bat, then guess how that's going to dictate my presentation style. Okay? Now, here's the thing. If you're logic based, if I'm a D or a C, what is a D want? Here. D wants direct. So here's the thing. Whenever you present to a D, okay, teach you a little trick with the D. What you always do is, so yes, remember a D, it stands for direct. I'm glad Robbie's not in this room right now, Sheila. You always give the bottom line first. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're on a listing appointment with a D. Okay? Hey, listen, I want to talk to you about, obviously we're here to list your property. You want to sit at the kitchen table. We sit at the kitchen table. Great. Walk to the house first, whatever you're processing. Just be quick about it. Okay? We sit down. Hey, listen, I want to kind of cut to the chase. Is that okay? Yeah? Go for it. Bottom line, I did some comps. Real quick, can you tell me what your number is that you think the house should list for? 750. Okay. My comps are suggesting 725. What do you think? I need 750. Okay. If we listed at 750, I want to explain to you why I got 725. I want to show you everything. But real quick, if we're off by 25 grand, would you be willing and open to having a conversation about price reductions if we didn't get the activity we need? Yeah? Great. Let me show you why I got 725. I want you to think of it. Now, all my eyes, you're like, oh, that feels so backwards. You know what a D does in that moment? Okay, we have a thing in Texas, we call it a straight shooter. Okay, how do we feel about straight shooters? Like fast. Now, I want you to rationalize trust just from that conversation that I just gave you. Rationalize it. Why would they trust me? Do they know me? In many cases, I just met them, maybe a referral from somebody else. Why should they trust me off of two things that I just said out loud? It's kind of dumb. But that's how we decide we trust people or not. Okay? The second someone beats around the bush, we don't trust them.
What are you trying to hide?
Bingo. So I think we should list at 750. What number did you get? If you don't answer that question, well, it's interesting. Let's talk about that. I was looking at a couple houses. I went and, have you looked at any of the houses in the neighborhood? You're Charlie Brown's teacher. And then I'll say it again. So what was the number that you got? What do you think we should list it for then? I hear nothing that you said. Does this make sense? Okay. Now, also too, here's the other caveat. You got a husband and wife sitting at the table. Okay? Are they ever the same personality? Yeah, opposites attract, and they attack. Okay? So, opposites attract. So guess what a D pretty much always marries? An S. Yeah, an I or an S, typically an S. The reason why is because they're the most opposite. An I marries what? A C. Because they're the most opposite. Okay?
Uh-huh.
That's what-
A DC. I married my total opposite.
Yep.
I'm IS.
Yeah.
I married a DC.
Yeah. Only 124 more sessions. You're doing great.
Thing is that I learned this, so I know how to deal with him.
Yes.
So.
Yes, believe me, yeah, Debbie's been through this with me several times, so she could probably teach this better than me now. So what I want you to pick up is, in that exact moment, that's when I tell you the bottom line. What's the bottom line someone wants to know? You tell them that up front. And then you go, will you let me explain why? And they'll say yes. Even if they disagree with you, because now they have to know. Well, yeah, why? Okay, now these are high Ds, by the way. Most people who are actually high Ds, they've had to learn a secondary for interpersonal skills. Especially if they run a company, if they have employees, anything like that's the case, they've had to develop more interpersonal skills. So they'll actually be a little more patient with you. They'll flex to this just a little bit for you here, okay? But occasionally you get like a Chris, runs a company, high C, and also a D. His D's is learned, his C's is primary, but his D's is learned because he runs a company.
All is.
He has, get out of here. Definitely not us. Yeah. So the whole thing is he'll have this developed side, so this D behavioral type shows up, right? So for me, you guys, I swear sometimes I feel like y'all made me an I. I was always my secondary, but man, my eyes had to get a lot higher to flex to keep up with you guys. Okay? Because it turns out if you want to do my job, you have to be a lot nicer than what I naturally am.
Well, and also with you taking over Leslie.
Oh, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bet. Taking over from Les for sure I really had to flex that because Leslie's like the highest I of anybody I've ever met in my life, you know? So to fill a gap, it's been like a whole other level for me. Some of y'all were around when I first started. That was, the first year I basically just hid in my office. Like y'all never saw me unless you had to. So that was the main thing is I want you to understand. How do you approach these people then? You hit them with logic. The other thing too is a D is also fast. Okay? So for example, let's say you go to a listing appointment. How many of you, you walk through the house first before you sit down and have the conversation? Okay? I recommend it. If you could do it every time, do it every time. It gives you time to figure out who you're talking to. Do it every time if you can. Some of y'all do that. You didn't realize that's what you were doing, but now that I'm saying it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's what I've been doing. I'm figuring out what personality type I'm talking to. So walk through the house when you get to know them. A D and an I are gonna move fast and talk fast. An S and a C, it's the only thing that's different off my little groupings. S's and C's move slow. D's and I's move fast. Move fast, talk fast. Okay? So, and if I'm a DI, forget it. I mean, I'm like motor mouth. Okay? I could read all the liability claims on all commercials for people, So, well, I might say TTNL, do it inside, right? I can do those things. So the whole thing is they move fast. The C, on the other hand, a C is not necessarily direct, okay? But a C basically just needs lots and lots of info. If you go on a listing appointment with these people, This is the one behavioral type. If you know you're talking to a C, trust me, send your listing presentation ahead of time, before you go. Because if you break out a folder with materials in it, they do not listen to what you have to say, especially if you give it to them. They will open up that folder and you can be talking and saying everything, and they're just reading. And they're not paying attention to a word that you're saying. Right? They're the ones that they take forever at closing, like they actually read the lender's junk docs, you know? And they're literally just stupid disclosures. Okay? Like, they're 3-hour closings for that reason. So not that they're slow, but what they want to see is they want to see if there's numbers to ever show, give them the numbers first. And you better show up with data. So like if you have comps, you better bring more than what this MLS gives you. Which is a whole other conversation we can do because, well, it's going to be relevant now with the number of listings that we have on the market now. That we have a product that we haven't had to talk about in a while. It's called Claris Market Metrics. And we've done some training, all of my launch folks, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, that's going to become relevant because you're going to have a conversation around price reductions and pricing and all that kind of stuff. It's going to matter now. So, by the way, did y'all see my Facebook post today?
I reposted it.
Okay. For those of you who didn't see it, you should go look at it. But in 24 hours, 800 new listings on the MLS in 24 hours. 433 had price reductions in 24 hours. That's just over half. And that's just 24 hours, guys. Price reductions. Okay? So the whole thing is, are we bottoming out? Are home values losing values? Not technically, because really all that's happening is the people that pay $200,000 over the value price, yeah, that $200,000 is getting squished. But the actual normalized value of the property is intact. Does this make sense? The question is what happened? Yeah, people don't have to pay stupid amounts of money to buy a house. They can pay the normal, actual comparison value for a property now. That's awesome. We need that, right? Okay. All right, that's the main thing. On emotion base, how do I know? Remember we just talked about this? We have the I. Man, my marker's going out on me. Let me switch to the red, see if this works. It's not much better.
I get one.
Thank you. If I'm an I, remember, I'm fast. Okay? And really, I've got to be, this is big time friends talk. So like if I said 2 to 3 minutes of connecting socially, an I needs up to 10 minutes, an S needs 3 to 5. Okay? Because an S, again, an S is a routine person. They always have a little schedule in their head that they're following. And so it's like, hey, I want to feel good about this, but we have to kind of stay on schedule too. So let's stay on schedule. Like, let's talk, but don't be too crazy. Where I's are like, hey, let's be best friends right now. And if I feel like we could be best friends, then I totally want you to be my realtor. But if we can't be best friends, I mean, I'm just not feeling it. Make sense? Okay, so I'm going to be fast. I'm going to spend more time focusing on friends. Oh, so much better, Colleen, thank you. Be fast and be friends. And the other thing is, I'm going to use the word feelings a lot. So my pre-qualifying questions are going to be based off of feelings. Hey, so we talked about kind of the price. You said $750. My comp's only $725. How do you feel about that gap? I'll ask these people what they think. I'll ask these people what they feel. Make sense? So what do you think about that gap? What do you feel about that gap? Well, you know, I'm a little disappointed. Understandable. Tell me more about that. Why do you feel disappointed? Because now, see, here's the thing. Feelings-based people, you have to get them to talk about how they feel about something. If you clear their emotion, they're golden. You get people to process their feelings with you, you're in like Flint, first off. They trust you right off the bat. Okay? And that you have a poker face, that it doesn't bother you. Hey, I completely understand. I would feel the same way if I were you. Right? Feel feel pounds, right? Totally understand. I would feel the same way if I were you. I'd be disappointed. I mean, $25,000 is no small amount of money. Significant chunk of money. So let me ask you, if we didn't have the right activity over the next 2 weeks at $750, how would you feel if we made a price reduction? Well, I wouldn't be happy about that, but I guess if nobody's looking at the house, correct, no one's looking at the house. And if we're not getting any offers at $750, well, we can't very well sell at $50, can we? Well, do you think 2 weeks is the right time? Statistically, yes. If we had to go a little bit longer, we could probably talk about that. I just need to know verbally that you're okay with the conversation, that we could talk, that we could have permission to talk about $725 in 2 weeks. We don't have to make any decisions right now. I just need permission from you to be able to talk about it in a couple weeks. Would that be okay? You feel okay with that if we do that? Yeah, I feel okay. I feel comfortable with that. Okay, great. All right, let's talk about the next part. Let's talk about our marketing strategy. Does this make sense? Okay? That's why there's a lot of what I'm doing is I'm just checking feelings. Just pulsing and checking feelings. Even sometimes, even if you guys use hey, so does this make sense what we're talking about to you? By the way, if you notice when I say, does this make sense, what's my head doing? Yeah, so what am I telling you to say?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, by the way, you inherently just do that. Okay? That's what we call a little NLP, right? Okay, so the other thing is, I'm going to focus here. Remember, I's are going to be faster, S's are going to be a little slower. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot. Readers, and processors. So, D's and I's will make instinct decisions. Yep, sounds good, makes sense? Yep, I'm ready. You can close these people on the appointment. C's and S's you can't close on the appointment. They need time to think and process. Specifically because we live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, instead of saying think or process, people will say I need to pray about it. Okay? That's basically them telling you I need to think and process. Right? So they'll say that as well.
Or no.
Yeah. Or no. Well, if you push too hard, they'll say no.
No, I'm saying that's what I'll pray about.
Yeah.
No.
There should be a southern and flight shut you down at the highway.
Maybe. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay? So the question is, if they say they need to pray about it, now you guys can, if y'all feel so brave, pray with them, okay? But the other thing is ask them, say, well, let me ask you something. Well, this is the same thing if you need time to think about it. If you had time to think about it, just replace the word think and pray. Let's say tomorrow comes and you've thought about it, and everything makes sense and feels good. How soon could we start working together? When could we start? Could we start tomorrow? Let's say you wake up tomorrow morning and you feel great about it. Could we start tomorrow? Because I have a few things that I would need from you. I need some things from you to sign, etc., all that. How would you feel about that? Okay? How would you feel about that? How would you think about that? So anytime you have hesitation, remember this, and this is just sales. You have to clear every objection, whether it's emotional, whether it's logical, no matter what, you have to clear every objection. You know how you clear objection? You get them to fully state it. Because you can't say enough cool things to clear an objection in someone's mind. They have to say it. They are the only ones that can clear their own objections. So what I have to do is I have to continue to ping you with questions to get you to spit it out and say it out loud. Are we 12:30? Okay. I'm like, are you just standing up or are you giving me the clue? You're giving me the look, aren't you? Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm like, you're giving me the look.
She's leaving in a minute.
Yeah. So, I didn't know if you were just, your energy was dropping
Yeah,
after
that's why
lunch.
I was, looking at the clock.
Okay. That's good.
Subtly. Or not so.
Yeah, no. See, look, you could be passive aggressive. That's like, yeah, fun. Okay, good. All right. So once I know that I'm in these three, I can quickly identify. If I realize I'm talking to business first and logic, Then the question is, am I talking to a D or a C? Speed is how I know the difference, and the directness of how they talk. These guys just speak in lots of information in general. Like, tell me about your house. 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 3,000 square feet. We bought it 3 years ago. What else do you want to know? This one? Well, actually, the original builder and architect on this place was, we're the 5th owners of this property. You know, I had soil sample tests done. I could actually grow potatoes on this. I mean, even though we have only a quarter of an acre, I could grow potatoes. So, you see what I mean? Like, that's what a C does. An I, when you walk in the door, first of all, how does an I always greet you? Yeah. So I's have octave changes. Okay? So when I says hi to you, they go up an octave to say hi. Hi! Right? Or my favorite, my wife, she sings. She's like, hey! I'm like, okay, that's like a whole song. All right. So they have that. And S, how does an S greet you? They're just warm. Hi. It's not loud, it's not obnoxious, there's no octave change, but it's like, aw, hug. Right? And they like do that with their voice. Okay? They're just very warm, it's just very accepting. It's just their nature. Okay? But very different in the vocal dynamics. So very quickly, I know who I'm talking to. These people want to know, tell me everything about you. These are the easiest in the world to talk to because their core fear, they're working for your approval. Even though you're there to basically get them to do business with you, they're working for your approval. They're the easiest ones. Now you gotta watch it. These appointments can take forever because they'll be your best friends. They'll talk to you for 2 hours, okay? They also will ghost you the fastest because if you took 2 hours to talk and you only scheduled 30 minutes, they're not gonna return your phone calls because they're gonna go, crap, I can't have a 5-minute conversation with you. So you gotta watch it. You gotta stay on top of that time. These folks right here, they're actually going to walk through. If you put things in front of them, because they're readers and processors, if you put materials in front of them, they're going to read it and not pay attention very well to what you have to say after that. So either give it to them up front so they can read it ahead of time, or hold back, talk about everything else, and then put stuff when you're actually ready for them to look at review. Make sense? Okay, give me some eyes. Talk to me, Goose.
We're gonna be judging how people walk around the office. Are you moving fast or are you moving slow?
You bet. Yeah, you'll see it. Yeah. So what's the biggest thing you're taking away from today? All my new folks, talk. Y'all have to talk.
Naming our fears.
Yeah, giving your fear a name. You have to give your fear a name. You know what the quickest way to give your fear a name? The 3 people that you love and you trust the most, ask them what you're afraid of. You're terrified to ask to know the answers to those questions. It's gonna suck. Brace yourself. And you have to, and give them 3 disclaimers. No, I see it. No, I mean it. No, I mean it. No, I mean it. But be gentle. Be nice. But that's good. What else? Give me more.
Madison?
Oh, sorry, Max.
That's okay. Just how important it is to try to right off the bat with any discussion or conversation, figure out and pinpoint which letter they are, and then mirror match that personality of the letter. Just kind of really open my eyes to make that a priority every time I talk with someone.
Do that. Give the behavioral type what they need. You give them what they need right off the bat, they're gonna give you what you need. Okay? All right, what else? Oh, sorry, Shane.
Public school that aren't compensating for your weaknesses kind of diverges the 3 versions of yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's why you have to spend a lot of time. You have to spend a lot of time with this person. And I will tell you, this is, if you want to confront this head on, write out, if you were home alone all day long and no one was there around you, what would you do? What would your day look like? Not only what you do, what are your thoughts? Okay, like this guy, I am a curmudgeon. I think people are stupid, they annoy me, I want to be left alone, I complain about everything. Okay? But here's the thing, because I can say these things, it also doesn't own me anymore. Okay? So then I have to consciously, it gives me the opportunity to consciously choose and be different. So because I choose to be different, I show up very different. But if I'm not aware of it, I mean, y'all, look at the job I have, for crying out loud. How can I do my job if I actually was like that? You see what I mean? Not, especially not for as long as I've been doing it now. Does this make sense? Like, that's why you have to confront the reality of who this person is. Because this person influences this one, influences this one. So it's good. All right, did you learn something? Yeah? You done? You wore out? We covered a lot of ground really quick.
So what do you do?
I don't know. Ashley will tell me. But yes, we can do that more. Main things, I want you to focus in on that. Behavioral types are going to matter a lot, not only for listing appointments, but more so about getting price reductions and how people feel about that, because that's tied to their money, their net worth. People have a lot of feelings and emotions about money, okay? So you're gonna have to have those conversations with people. This is gonna help you. And the other thing is creating a sense of urgency in buyers. Know your behavioral type and who you're talking to. D's have a natural sense of urgency, so they're the easiest to get moving, but your S's and C's are super tough to get moving, okay? So the question is how do we create sense of urgency? The answer is you build a timeline and you do a written timeline. These people function really well with communication in writing because they're processors, so they need to see it. So verbal communication doesn't work super well with these two. These two are fine with verbal communication because they're gonna make instinctual decisions more so, off little facts. These people need to make decisions with lots of facts, so that's why you have to give them stuff in writing because they need time to process and think. So if I give you a timeline of how long it's gonna take for you to buy a house, or what happens if you don't hurry up and do it before the Fed raises the rates, for example. You see what I mean? But I'm going to give you empirical data and give it to you in writing to help you make that decision, to create a sense of urgency. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, y'all, thanks.
Thank you.